Let's continue this app. Let's make this register work. Uh, we need the name field inside our input field. Actually, name attribute. So name, which should match the database field. In our case, name should be name, and this here should be email, and here this should be password. So this name fields should match the database tables here. So basically the name, email, password. Alright, so it should be the same. Then we can have an action. Oops. First we'll write a method called post, since it's a post request, and let's do the action of slash register. I'll tell you this. Now we can go to routes.js and we'll copy this here and paste this here and change this to post. So as long as the HTTP methods are different, the URLs can be same. You can't write save. I already mentioned that, right? So you can't write same URL with same HTTP request 2 times. So as long as the HTTP requests are different, you can write this same. So this post request, this action should be this one. So this action should match this. So basically slash register post request, this will look for post request, and action of slash register, it will go here and look for auth controller, and this should be register. Alright, so let's move to register here. Let's go to auth controller. Oops, not auth.js, auth controller. Auth controller.js. Let's copy this one. No, we don't need to copy this. Async register, and we need to create a new record here. Alright, so how we can get that? We can get all the data from this database field using the request method in Adonis. So we can write request here. From this we can get all the values. So we'll catch everything inside a body. So const body equal to request dot all. What this will do is it take all the data from the database field, and so now we can get email, body.email, body.name, and body.password. This literally means the data coming from here. So to confirm that, let's do console.log body.name. Since this name is coming from here, our name should be printed. Right, let's refresh here. Let's write name and hit submit. Oops, sorry about that. In register we need to change this as text. Alright, submit. Invalid CSRF request. Sure enough, when you are submitting a request in Adonis, it look for the data, whether the data is coming from actual user or coming from this application or coming from what is it, a third party malware or something like that. To make sure this is coming from our input value, we need to pass a CSRF value here, like this CSRF field, which will detect that it is coming from the trusted resource. Cool. Now let's do Arctic and hit submit. Something happened, right? So if I go ahead and see Karthik is printed, which is the console.log here. Cool. That's how it should work. Alright, so how we can register any user? As we know, the model is connected to our user model is connected to our database. We can make use of this. So const user equals use app models, not controllers, models, and user. This will look for the user here. Alright, now we can create a new user by creating a new object, new JavaScript object. So const user equal to await new user. Alright, so why await? Because this is a synchronous request. We need to await the responses coming to create a new record. So it returns a promise here, so we need to await for the promise to resolve. Alright, so now user dot name, since the user is a new request, it needed the name, email, and password. So user dot name equals body dot name, user dot email equal to body dot email. Alright, user dot password equal to body dot password. Alright, now user dot save. This dot save will save things to the database. So basically it triggers a save method to create a new record inside our database. That's how it should work. Since it is a promise, it returns a promise, we need to avoid them, make use of it. Finally, we can return response dot redirect to the same page. To return to the same page, we can say /back, which will return to the same register page again. So, but if you want to go to /login or something like that, you can do that. Great. Now we can check this. Before checking this, you should remember that we are using a response, so we need to use response here. Cool. Let's check this out. Refresh here. Oops. And let's create a new record. Before that, we'll check whether we have any data inside user. Inside users, we have nothing right now, right? So let's do Karthik at kr.com whatever, and let's do 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now it is redirected to login page, which means the action here was successfully done. That was the logic here. If I go ahead and check here, now we have the new record as we sent from our form. Wait, the password, we just saving the password, but what is happening here? As in the logic of authentication and everything logic, when you are doing registration with password, if you go ahead and check in user.js, it returns a hook here. So this is the hooks in Adonis. So before save, we are hashing the password, which is come from the Adonis installation. So we don't need to manually do that. If it is not doing that, we need to do this manually here, like this. Alright, so if you delete this, it won't get hashed. So this is the logic here. This is a hooks. When you're learning about the hooks, we can take care of that here. So if you go ahead and check for hooks, inside lucid.orm we have hooks. So this is a lifecycle methods we can use to create different kind of things. So basically, before create will be the action to be done before creating something to the database. After create, a lot of methods are available here. So if we scroll down here, you can see different kind of commands inside that. Alright, so we are successfully registered here, but big problem here is happening. When you click enter without any data, all the data is null, so it is throwing the error. It cannot be null. So we need to make sure that we should stop and give some validation errors to the users. How we can do validation here? Let's go to validation. In fact, let's check. I'll go to the validations here. Validators. So in here in basics validator, click this and copy this setup. So Adonis comes with a validation package so that we can get set it up. Copy this here and we can stop this here and install, but I can do this here, but we'll do this here for now. Just copy paste this one. It will install the validator for us. Make sure to stop the server and do this. Mostly sometimes when you are not doing that, it might throw some error. So when you install the validator, it opens a new HTML page to give you the instruction to how to get set up with the validator. First thing you need to do is inside providers, you need to put this providers array. So you need to go to startup.js and put this one. So start app.js, inside providers you need to put this provider, so validated provider. That's all we need to do, and other logic will be take care of by ourselves. So we have different types of validation things. So basically we can do these things in two different ways, not exactly two different ways, but the most common two different ways are there. Alright, so we can do that. So let's start doing our validation here. So how we can do that? We can write rules here like this. Alright, how we can write? We can write the email, which should be required. So this one makes sure that a value is entered inside the email field. Alright, so email required, and it should be a email. So what this will do is it will make sure that the typed one is exactly the correct form email, like mail@file.com. This is the correct email, right? So it makes sure that this has the same pattern here like that, and it should be unique because we cannot duplicate email ID. So unique, and it should be inside the table users. Second thing is name, which is required, and it should have minimum of 6 characters, in fact 4 characters. So name should have at least 4 characters long. So if you want to do max, you can do maximum of 30 characters. Username should not exceed more than 30 characters, something like that. You can do that. So finally password, you can do regex, but I'm not going to do here. I'm just going to do required and minimum of 6 characters long. So that's it. That's all we need to do here. And const validations equal to await validate. What this validate is, this is simple, that is coming from the validator. We can use const validate equal to use validator. Alright, this validator comes from the package. So if you want to know about this, you can go to validator and scroll down to check what are we are doing. So this validate come from use validate. So this is how we we have to check. So basically, when you are learning something, please go to the documentation and re-verify everything we write. Look at a lot of different things that is given in the documentation. That's how you can learn. So you can different kinds of things, so that it might you can make sure that you are learning something right. So that's how it should work. So what we can do here, await validate the rules one, and the body is simply in fact you just need to put the body here and rules. So it will make sure that our, if you go ahead and check here, so this request at all, since we are catching the request at all with the body here, we can put that. In fact, we'll just cut this out and put this on top. Alright, so that's how it should work. Finally, we need to check whether if the validations are failing or not. So const validations dot fails, we need to return all the error messages. How we can return? For now, let's return with a JSON response. Return response dot JSON validations dot messages. So these messages will return everything. Alright, so let's do this. Let's check this out. If you're going to give it, if this validation is passing, it will go for this one. So you'll first check for validations. If this is passing, it will do. If the failure is happening, it's going to give a JSON response of all the validation messages that is coming out. So hit a refresh here. Oops, we need to start the server again. Cool. If I hit submit, required validation failed on email. Alright, so this validation dot messages will look for this validate, await validate will stop when the first validation is failed, so it won't go for second one. So basically that will stop. So if you want to give all this one, just you can say validate all, so that it will generate all the possible errors that is happening. Submit here. Oops, this validate all should be come from here. Alright, so refresh and hit submit. Now we got all the possible errors that is coming from a database, so exactly from the validator. So I don't like this one, so just make this better for me. So let's leave that. How we can show the messages, error messages, that is where our logic is going, right? So how we can do that? We have something called session in our application. Session dot flash, it's session dot flash, and we can flash the messages here, right? So how we can flash? Well, it is very simple. We just need to pass a error message here, and just do some message. We need to just validation, so we can just pass validation dot messages. Since this session messages is only for success messages and failure messages, this validation fails have our own method of sending the session messages. So instead of doing that, we can do with session with errors. So basically we can do session dot, instead of session dot flash, we can do session dot with errors. All right, so we just need to um, validation dot messages. So how we can show the validation messages inside our application? So finally we can return the response dot redirect to slash. Instead of slash, we can say it back. Right, so how we can show these messages inside our application? Now remember, we created our partials, right? So we can go to partials here. Where is it? Inside resources, inside views, we have a partials here, right? So inside partials, we'll create errors, in fact notifications dot edge. Right, cool. Now we can say if get error for. What this will do is, in fact, if statement should start with if, because this is the edge templating engine. We have to do if to make sure it is a if statement. So a get error for is a method that is in Adonis to make sure that, and if should be to make sure that something is happening inside the session error messages. Alright, so end if should be used because if statement should be closed. Right, so here we can do is, we can do a container, and inside that we can do alert danger, which should say get error for. So basically we are checking whether there's an error and showing the error. That's how the logic goes. So inside app.edge, after the navbar, just include them. Include partials dot notification. Alright, so partials dot notifications. Now that's the end here. So if we go ahead and just refresh and check, sure enough, session is not defined because we use a session here, but we don't know what session is. So it don't know what session is. So session is used inside Adonis. So just naming them will do. Just defining them will do. Right. So go back, refresh, and submit. Required validation failed on email. So email failed address is showing up. Alright, so that's great. We'll do something like empty4 so that it have some margin top borders. So there is a problem here. So it is showing that required validation failed on email, but this is not helping, right? We need our own messages. How we can do that? Go to auth controller, and before roles just say const messages equal to email dot required, which is email should be required. Alright, so if we go ahead and refresh here, nothing will happen because we need to pass in here. just pass these messages as a third argument, so it knows that we need our own error messages. So it will remove the default messages that is coming from Adonis. So I'll just refresh this one. If I submit here, email should be required. This is how it should work. So just remember this. Just write all this logic for you. Right? So I'm just stopping here because we don't need to write everything. So we make sure that we are not wasting our time. Alright, so if you want to do that, you can do that. So if you want to do like something like email.unique, you can do email is already used and name dot required name is required, and finally name dot min name should have 4 characters. Alright, so I can spell, sorry about that. Alright, so name dot max cool. That's how it should work. Alright, so basically this is how it is, and we can make sure we can do that as of now. So this is how it should work. Should be required. If I give that email should be required. So if I give email name is required, so this error message is printing out. That's what we need to do here. So finally we can flash our session messages here. So after that, what we can do is, here we can do session messages, session dot flash, and we'll do session dot flash session what to say, it requires an object, right? So the object is let's say success. If it is a success message, we should say registration completed, please login. Right, so that is completed, so please login is the message. So how we can pass this session message, since it is an get with errors message, it is on a flash message. So for flash message we need to define this inside notification.h. In fact, you can copy this one, paste this here, and instead of get error for, we can say if there is a flash messages. Alright, so we can send the flash messages. Right, that's the logic of it. So oops, okay, flash message it seems, sorry about that. Cool. And now if we successfully logged in, successfully registered, it should return the flash message of, oops, it should show the flash message. Something is wrong here. Instead of flash message or flash notification. Alright, so I need to check this one, so I'll come back in the next video so that we can make sure we can do the login form to work and our flash message to work. Alright, so instead of wasting your time going through this documentation, I just look into that and I'll show you what to do next. Alright, so I'll see you in the next video.